Goed dat je luistert naar een nieuwe aflevering van Paul de Vries vanuit de podcaststudio in Ede met de missie de online automotive beter te maken. Dit doet Paul met de volgende partners met dezelfde missie. Marktplaats, Goldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Used Car Controller, Vinnacles en tweedehands.be.
We've got the falling car price. Here's the other thing. This is what I'm really scared of. And this, I don't think you are insulated from. I think you have this same challenge coming to you. So I mentioned earlier the interest rates. Okay, great. I mentioned earlier we sold cars for a lot more money than we normally did. We did here as well. Awesome. We made more money. Yay. We also then increased the used car price, right? Because the inventory was low. Demand was so high on new, we couldn't get those. Hey, would you consider a year old for a couple $1,000s? Yes, of course I would. Great. So now we have all these people that are in inflated vehicle values. They're driving around in them. And eventually they're going to try to come in and trade that vehicle while inventory is coming up, used car prices are going down, you see what's happening. There's going to be a massive gap here between what they paid for the car and what its value is next. And that's going to be a shock. And that's going to be a customer experience issue for you, right? We celebrated earlier, but now it's going to be what happened. Okay, so be prepared for that. And then how do we get that difference in money? It's going to be a little difficult, so keep that in mind. That is coming. We're going to have a huge gap between those two. I think a couple of other things that are going to be really interesting is the continued adoption of EV. Everybody's not 100% there, and one big thing is in the service departments. This is a massive amount of investment. And in the States, we weren't quite sure how is that going to affect, right? We don't have as many on the road. We don't know. We're watching you, and we're seeing what's happening here first. You know, we saw, tires. They're wearing tires out a little bit faster. They're wearing brakes out a little bit faster. Okay, maybe there's some opportunity here on EV. But the other thing that we have that's a challenge is we have these monstrosity dealerships. They take up 11, 12 acres. The last dealership that I worked at and I ran had 996 parking spaces. 996 parking spaces. And we had to sell about 400 to 450 cars a month to make that work. Okay? That's a lot of inventory with a lot of interest. So keep that in mind when you start thinking about this. Now the manufacturers, there's this weird thing going on. Stellantis, Ford, talking about agency model. I think it's really difficult to ask us as dealers and in the automotive retail to invest millions of dollars in EV upgrades, in facility upgrades, which they're continuing to do, and then come back and say, and by the way, we're also going to go an agency model too, right? That's going to have to pan itself out. That's going to have to pan itself out. I don't believe in the States that it's going to go very far. I think Stellantis is certainly watching what's happening here or not happening. I guess that mind changes kind of every week, put off again, but they're watching that very closely. So I think that's very important for us to keep that in mind. AI. Did they show the video earlier? I came a little bit late, but did they do the AI? I love that video. That was one of the funniest things I saw because I feel like that's my life right now. Every time I'm around here, AI, what? AI. It's like, come on. ChatGPT, what? There is some reality to this. So I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can use right now with AI we're doing in the States that can help you in a lot of different ways. It's real. So number one, employee staffing. That's a huge issue for us right now. I mentioned $20, $30 an hour. It's really hard to find people. So we're searching for all these resumes, right? All these resumes. We're putting out all these online ads. Please come to work. Please come to work. And it's so much to cipher through. So we've created very easily with AI, we could go through and identify in those resumes as it come through certain key characteristics that we're looking for and weed out the ones that we're not. So here's your freebie. Even without AI, I want to give you another freebie. The biggest mistake people make when hiring is that they hire for skill. Oh, you can sell a car? Oh, you did sales great? Oh, you got a great personality. Oh, you work well with people? All right. If they don't show up, they're not worth a crap, Right? Can we agree with that? The best salesperson in the world could be in your dealership right now. And if they're not in front of somebody and not talking to somebody, they're as worthless as the stone that is decorating outside. Okay? So you need to find the characteristics, not the skill. I don't care if I don't want somebody that says they can sell cars. Well, I'm going to have to fix all the problems they already have. I'm going to fix all their bad habits. Look for characteristics. Characteristics are, when did you get your first paying job, right? Can you get out of bed in the morning? What's your average day look like? You need to look for those characteristics where they're driven. What's their purpose? What's their passion? You got to start there. What's purpose and what's passion for you? Because if they don't have those two things, forget it. The job's going to get really bad really quick. They got to have a purpose and a passion. Find those things. And by the way, one last thing, interviewees, the people in your organizations that are doing the interviews, I would highly suggest that if they're not doing them consistently, the exact same questions to every single person, every single time, they're making a mistake. And it's not because of some HR or quality or all that, which I believe in all that. My point is this. It's really easy when you get into a conversation to start to like somebody. People want to be liked, we like people, and all of a sudden if I change my conversation each time, they're going to sound great. Oh, really? That's the best? That's awesome. I like that too. But if you ask consistent questions, the exact same across the board every time, you'll start to see the real pattern in people, and you'll start to see what's there. So I hope that helps you. What else can we do? There's a huge opportunity when it comes to the AI for chatbots handling inbound candidates. Let's move over to expense control, right? There's a few things inside of a dealership that are most important in the world. Staffing, expense control, and of course sales, right? Those are the three components. Employee is another one, salaries, that's a huge one, but that's part of expense control in my world. You have to control expenses. How can we control expenses? Staff reduction. I'm not looking to blow people out and have less workers. I'm looking to have the most efficient ones, right? We want to quickly be able to analyze sales data. We want to be able to monitor vehicle data, see which ones are going as well. David's CRM, I love that, where I could look at the web page, the VDP, and see where those pieces are. That's amazing data that cuts a lot of stuff out in a lot of time. I think you can use it for customer satisfaction. I think you could use that to include browsing histories of previous purchases, right? Does that help? What kind of services? Are we looking at that when they come in? When somebody comes in, am I utilizing the CRM to say, oh, wow, they've been in here 4 times for service. They've spent a lot of money with us. This is a good customer. I need to take care of them. Now they're on to purchase, and recognize that. Are we doing that instantaneously? Or are we just, listening to the salesperson says, oh, yeah, they're a good customer? There's a big difference between those two. So I encourage you to take a look at that. I think the last piece that I would look at is AI when it comes to data mining. That's a huge one. You want to be able to take a look and say, hey, where can I find the next one that's going to sell? Where can I find the vehicle at the right time, with the right target, with the right message, and the right incentive? And oh, by the way, here's a big one. How about try to figure out how they want to be communicated with? Number one problem right now in the States is we don't even ask how we want to communicate with a consumer. We never even ask them, hey, how would you like to be communicated with? We just go, and then we start emailing them constantly. And then we don't get that. We text, I know we're behind. We don't do WhatsApp. I got it. I've been hearing it all week. But we love our texting, and it's free, and we can do all the same stuff. But we just don't ask our consumers how they want to be communicated with. And how about the telephone? How about just a regular old conversation? You know how much gets lost now that we're doing texting and email? It's so different when they're having a conversation versus doing the email or a text. But we don't even ask the consumers that. So ask them, but even more importantly, deliver on it. The worst thing we could do is set the expectation here and do what again? Back to the Amazon experience. So if you're going to ask, deliver. A good CRM will help you with that. Really, really key. I'm going to talk about calls when I finish up here a little bit because that's a big passion of mine. One of the amazing things is this is going to sound another one of those Texas stories. It's not. When I sold the company, we had the largest automotive-only call center in the United States. That call center did 59 million live calls a year. 59 million live calls a year. Now, that was a combination of a lot of different things. We did unsold follow-up. They came in the dealership, they didn't buy, we're on it. And maybe in as less as 2 hours, we were on the phone to them, seeing what happened, why'd they leave. Website traffic, internet leads, any leads coming from any sources, totally different. And by the way, at any given time, 101 different scripts were running. 101 different scripts. Service, data mining, sales and service. Hey, you're due for the 90,000 mile service, whatever. We could identify that. We could, now we have cars that identify it for us, but still we could get that and call. Service CSI, bless you. Service CSI, sales CSI, how are we doing, right? Interesting fun fact, anecdotal. We always think that more is better. More is just more. More is not better, it's just more. When we did CSI calls, and we have all this data from the millions and millions and millions and millions of calls, when we first started doing CSI, we'd ask this really long script of, hey, how'd you like the salesperson? 1 to 10, how about the car? Hey, what brought you to the dealership? Hey, what brought you in? And you know what happened? We got crappy results. We went to a 1-question script and got the best results we've ever gotten. How is your experience on a scale of 1 to 10? That's it. You know why? People are very valuable of their time. And it's more so today than it's ever been. And most people want to answer and help surveys. I get them all the time and I want to. I go into them. If you're like me, just say yes. You go into them and all of a sudden it's a question and then it's another question and it's another question. And dude, I'm out. I'm sorry. I was just about to help you out, give you great feedback, but you're killing me, man. Time is money. Listen, I'm like a slot machine. I'm coin operated. You put money in me, bells go off, things ring, I'm ready to go, time is valuable. So when you think about those things, that's what we could analyze with that kind of data on that many calls. So unsold, internet, delivery CSI, service CSI, data mining. Basically, if you could think of it, we did it. We were doing Takata, airbag recall, Mercedes, you name it. We were doing OEM level. We did all of Ford Motor Company's internet website leads at one point. I tell you all that because of the data that we got out of it. Now, why?
Steeds meer collega's gebruiken Used Car Controller. Taxeren, calculeren, publiceren of auto's verhandelen met je persoonlijke handelsplatform? Met 1 abonnement geeft Used Car Controller je controle over alle kritische gebruikte autoprocessen. Zo maakt Used Car Controller je tot de beste in je vak. Vinnacles, de leverancier van ondersteunende diensten voor de automotive. Denk hierbij aan garage- en fleet management systemen, RDW-diensten, occasion remarketing, voertuigdata en import- en exportdienstverlening. Je online leads opvolgen binnen 30 seconden? Dat kan met CallDrip. Vraag direct een demo aan.
Number one, I believe salespeople are the best ones in the world. In the automotive business, they're hands down. I've never done anything else. 30 years, this is all I've done. I'll never do anything else. I love it. I love everything about the car business. I like racing. I like cars. I like the smell of gas. I like all of it. I fix old cars, you name it. I got a 1942 Ford GPW. For those of you who don't know that, that's a Willys Jeep made by Ford in World War II. It's original. It's beautiful. I love it. But what I do know is this. Salespeople generally are much better face-to-face. They're really good face-to-face. In fact, COVID proved that. We weren't as good. We just got lucky because we had all the other challenges there. But face-to-face, belly-to-belly sales is still the best. Salespeople are generally much better at that. What I've also found is the ones that aren't good at belly-to-belly are really good on the phone. Very rarely does someone possess both skills. Very rarely does a salesperson awesome face-to-face and awesome on the phone. Very rarely. The other thing is it's tedious. I'll give you a statistic. For us, we would do an average of 6 dials per customer. That was the max. It took us 4.5 attempts to get somebody on the phone. 4.5 dials on average, making 59 million phone calls a year. That's a lot of calls, right? So that takes a lot of time. You know what else we found? A lot of salespeople work a pretty normal shift. Guess what? When they go to make calls, they're making calls at the same time. And then they wonder why they're going to get somebody, because that somebody's probably not there, right? And then we wonder why we're not getting success. And we don't change it up. So what I'm getting at is this. There are a lot of great alternatives out there, but I'd like you to consider a few. Number one, you can go virtual completely. There's a lot of really good service. There's some here in the Netherlands. Very, very good. You can have them do partial or all. It takes the heavy lifting out. That's what I like to say. Take the heavy lifting out and then put the real data, the real hot leads, the real hand raisers into the salespeople's hands that can handle it. Instead of wasting all the time trying to dial through for dollars, trying to find the lottery ticket, let's keep them busy doing other things, and then let's feed them the real hand raisers. That's one. A second one is you could do everything in-house. You could create your own BDC in the house. Very difficult to do, but it is successful if you do it. If you do it, start in service, because you'll get success there. Start in service. Number one, I bet half of the phone calls that come into your dealership right now are service related. And I bet the majority of those phone calls are, is my vehicle ready? Anybody that's listening to their calls knows exactly what I'm talking about. Is my vehicle ready, or when will it be done? That's the majority of the phone calls that come into your store. Starts in service, and then the next part is my vehicle done, or when will it be? So you could eliminate that, create a BDC, that helps. But you could do outbound. Your vehicle's ready for maintenance, et cetera. We have to start getting an up pitch on that. That's a great area to start. Then, if you're feeling comfortable with that, you can move into a BDC on the front side that's generating those outbound follow-up calls. Listen, there is no better person in the world than somebody in the dealership that can handle a real-world question right now. Hey, do you have this vehicle on the lot? Absolutely. Let me go double-check. I'll be right back, or can I call you back? Whatever script you want to use, I don't care. There is nobody in the world can handle it better than your people. But if they're not handling it well, you need to make sure that somebody is. Whether that's taking inbound phone calls to take the pressure off of service. If you're looking to do an outside service, guess what? Service is the best place to start again. Inbound service calls for appointments set 72% of the time when we had our call center. 72% of the inbound service calls we got turned into a service appointment. So that's an easy way to test that out, right? I believe this business is not a trust me business. I believe this business is a try me business. So when you try it, make sure you try it the right way and have that. Have a coordinator for it. Great hybrid to do that. Customer experience. Don't worry, for those of you who want to beat traffic, I'm getting you out of here in about 48 more minutes. I'm coming to the close. Customer experience is the biggest thing in the world that we can make or break. This brings us here, or it brings us here. These are the things that are memorable. These are the things that bring people back. It's not the pricing. They don't remember any of that. They don't remember any of that. They only remember the experience. They only remember the experience, good or bad. And I want you to think about a restaurant that you ate at a month ago, or 2 months ago, or 3 months ago, or any time. I guarantee you will probably not remember the exact amount of that bill, but you'll remember whether it was a good experience or whether it was crap. We don't remember the dollars. We remember the experience. And so experience is key. So I'm going to tell you 2 quick little anecdotal stories. These are favorite stories of mine, and they're true. The first one is a guy by the name of Bert Bachman. You probably did not see this. Last month he passed away. God love him, 93 years old. Bert Bachman was a car dealer in the U.S. for 50 plus years, started as a salesperson, ended up owning a small little dealership called Galpin Ford, Galpin, #1 Ford store in the world I mentioned earlier. And he owned that store for 50 years, and he passed last month. He's in the Automotive Hall of Fame. When I worked with Bert, this will date me a little bit, Nasser was the CEO of Ford, and I sat in his office, and Bert picked up the phone and called Nasser at Ford and got him on the phone. Right? That's how powerful this guy was. He was the nicest guy in the world. He was a beautiful soul. He was huge. You would have thought he was from the Netherlands. He was massive. His hand was like that. And then he had this trick where he had his desk there, and then he had the floor in front of his desk lowered by about 6 inches. So when you sat in the chair, he was even bigger, right? It was this super old school power move, right? It's a big hand over, and then whoa, and then you'd sit in that chair and be like. I had the pleasure to work with Bert on a number of occasions, a number of different things, and again, recognized probably as one of the greatest car dealers in the world. Now, what's the point of the story? I was walking around one of his dealerships. It was the PAG, which was the performance. So he had Jaguar, he had Maserati, he had Lotus, he had Aston Martin. I mean, it was the most beautiful Aston Martin dealership showroom at the time. It just was a full bar with a spinning car, right? It was just beautiful. We were walking around the dealership, and Bert went over, and there was a garbage can that was over here to the side, and he walked over, and he went. I said, and he was 70-something at the time, 78. And so I was like, wow, what just happened, right? I don't know what's going on. So I was too embarrassed to say anything at the time, but I waited till we kind of got through a little bit more of the walk of the day, because he walked around. He called it management by walkabout. Management by walkabout. And what that meant was inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect. So he would walk around all the time. All the time. Anyway, he did that to the garbage can. And I finally looked at Bert and I said, Bert, what was the deal with the garbage can? I said, was there something on it? I'll go get something to clean it off. He says, nah. He says, it was just off by a little bit. I could just tell that it just wasn't right. This guy's a billionaire, walking around the dealership, moving the garbage can by 2 or 3 centimeters, right, just to make sure that it was perfect. And I finally later said, Bert, I still don't get it. He says, it's all about the details. He says, it's all about the details. He says, if I'm paying attention to that, so is everybody else. And he says, if I'm paying attention to it, so is a customer. And they don't know it, they can't feel it, they can't put their hands on it, but they know that it feels right. They know that it feels right because it is. It's just set the right way. Last example. I work for another guy named Buddy Hutchison. You have no idea who he is. He sold to Asbury Automotive Group. It's a top 5 automotive group in the United States, about 100 and some odd stores. It's one of the first mega deals, made a ton of money. And I worked for Buddy right before we sold. And we were walking around on the lot one day. And in the States, the egos, right? I could barely get my head in the room, right? I mean, it's just natural with the stupid Americans. And so every car we sell has the dealership's name on it, right? And every dealership's name is the guy or gal whose family owns it. So Buddy was walking out on the lot with me, and real quick, he looked over, he says, hey, can you get that white Monte Carlo, get it back to detail? I said, yes, sir, absolutely. I wasn't even a part of the detail. I was in F&I. I was doing finance and insurance. No problem. I got the car, I get the keys. I went to go get the car. I said, Buddy, you want me to get it re-detailed? What do you want me to do with it? He says, the sticker on the back of that car, it's crooked. And he goes, if people see a crooked name, they think you do crooked business. All about the details. All about the details. It's never the big stuff. I'm going to tell you right now, having sold a company for over $500 million, it was never the big stuff. It's always the little details every single day. If you do those little details every single day, the rest of it's taken care of. What I want you to think about is the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China is not one big cement block. It's these little tiny blocks that go for miles and kilometers, and it's amazing. But that's really the point at the end of the day, is those little tiny details. Thank you guys. Really enjoyed being here. Thank you for having me. Paul, excellent event as always. Please don't ask any questions. I have no more answers.
Dank u wel voor het luisteren naar de DCDW-podcast van Paul de Vries met de missie om de online automotive beter te maken. Vond u deze podcast interessant? Abonneer dan meteen via Spotify, Soundcloud of iTunes. En deel deze podcast via LinkedIn met uw netwerk. De DCDW-podcast van Paul de Vries wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door de volgende partners: Marktplaats, Goldrip, Carmen Automotive BDC, Used Car Controller, Vinnacles en tweedehands.be.